The following content is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Hello, and welcome to Always Another Way podcast. My name is Marina Sprocky Spriggs, and I'm your host. I have a master's in professional counseling. I'm the IPPY Award-winning author of Stop Looking for a Husband, Find the Love of Your Life, and Nasty Divorce, A Kid's Eye View. I write positive divorce advice for the HuffPost, and I'm trained in clinical hypnosis. And this podcast speaks to out-of-the-box thinkers, and it's for those who hear the call of hope and always another way. And if you're very rigid and set in your beliefs, this is probably not your cup of tea. However, you should note, taste can and do change. And I just want to thank everyone for listening. And if you could remember to go to your podcast app on your phone, remember to subscribe to Always Another Way and rate. The more ratings we get, the higher it gets pushed up, and the more everyone can hear all of my wonderful guests. And today, I am so super excited. As you know, I read a lot of books, listen to books on Audible, always reading or listening to something. And there are probably less than 5 books that I have read a multiple of 5 times or more. And my guest today has written one of those books. And the book is called Never Split the Difference. And I originally chose this book because I do a lot of research on linguistics, persuasion, and metaphor to write hypnosis scripts for people. And so I'd got this book, but this book is so much more than a negotiation book. It's packed with very interesting stories, but I think it's a book on being a Zen master of your emotions. And we're going to dive in. So let me tell you a little bit about Chris Voss. He is the CEO of the Black Swan Group, and he is the author of the national bestseller, Never Split the Difference, Negotiating as If Your Life Depended on It, which was named one of the 7 best books on negotiation, and I will affirm that. He is a 24-year veteran of the FBI. Chris retired as the lead international kidnapping negotiator, and drawing on his experience in high-stakes negotiations, his company specializes in solving business communication problems using hostage negotiation solutions. Their negotiation methodology focuses on discovering the black swans, small pieces of information that have a huge effect on an outcome. Chris and his team have helped companies secure and close better deals, save money, and solve internal communication problems. Chris has been featured in Time, Business Insider, Entrepreneur Inc., Fast Company, Fortune, The Washington Post, Success Magazine, Squawk Box, CNN, ABC News, and more. And I am so excited to talk to you. So welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure to be on. Thanks.
Oh, so, yeah, I love this book. And one of the first things I noticed in it, you know, besides just the super interesting stories that you tell, which is about all your years in police and FBI on negotiation. But I'm wondering, and I noticed this, I'm a therapist and watch behavior. How did you first discover that emotional intelligence is a key to good negotiation?
Well, I didn't realize it was emotional intelligence at the time, but I couldn't, they wouldn't let me be a hostage negotiator unless I went and volunteered on a suicide hotline first. Mm-hmm. And that's just, you know, intense, applied emotional intelligence. So I got a feel for it early on in those days. And I really remember thinking, you know, this is so impactful. You know, why can't you just use it everywhere? And I just continued to study and use it in my personal life just to get better and to increase my skill level, and just across the board, one thing led to another. And now I'm sitting here.
Yeah. And this is true too. And you mentioned this in the book. These skills that you give in the book, and you have a blog with lots of interesting things too, are for all communication in life with various people and various things. Even,
Right.
I think you said you used it in your parenting style.
Right.
So you have a post that talks about the 5 elements that are essential for negotiation. And I figured maybe we could talk about those and tell people a little bit about those components.
Let's go for it. Let's pick our way through that. Let's navigate.
All right, let's start with self-awareness. Why is that important?
Well, you're 31% more effective in a positive frame of mind. And if we're not self-aware enough, we might let ourselves slip into negativity. There's no neutral emotions. We're either positive, we're negative, we're balanced, we're leaning one way or the other. And the real issue in our effectiveness with others, the mercenary in us to be more effective, we got to be in a positive frame of mind. The missionary in us to have better relationships, we got to be in a positive frame of mind. So a little bit of self-awareness, how do you lean yourself in a positive frame of mind where you're smarter and you relate to people, is just how to make yourself a better person.
Yeah, so that's one. And then number 2, and this takes some wherewithal, but that is self-regulation. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, and there's some really small hacks for that too. I mean, it's along the same lines. I mean, you can regulate yourself with little reminders, like the cliche gratitude, expressions of gratitude, starting your day with gratitude. Well, that puts you on the right track, that gets you into the right frame of mind and makes you more effective. One of the stupidest hacks of all out there is forcing yourself to smile. They actually did a brain study where they tricked people into smiling, so they didn't know they were smiling. How do you do that? They say, all right, take a pencil, hold it in your mouth, don't let your lips touch it, which is pretty much like that. They didn't know they were smiling. They wanted to see if there was a hardware connection between the muscles in the face and the mirror neurons in the brain, the thing that trigger the chemical dumps when you're in a positive frame of mind that make you smarter. And you got a corresponding uptick in mental capacity. I mean, I've even, at times when I found myself in a bad mood, I'll force a smile onto my face and I'll feel the difference because the neuroscience reactions is, giving me little hits of dopamine and serotonin so that I'm more effective. So, there's simple little ways to just do that and override the system.
I love that. And that's really true. And you see somebody just with a smile on their face walking on the street or something else, and that changes things for sure.
Easy, and it's
free.
Kind of fun. It makes the world a better place at the same time, doesn't it?
Yeah, winner, winner. Okay, so we got a good smile hack. So that's an easy, free tip. Anybody can do it. And now the next one you talk about is internal motivation. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, well, in order to be a really effective negotiator, I mean, we avoid the phrase win-win, but in point of fact, you can't make the other side lose.
Yeah.
So if you want to beat the other side, actually you're hurting yourself long term. And I run into so many people that look at negotiations as, I got to beat the other side. I have to win. And what that does is it hurts you long term, because if you're determined to win, you're going to make the other side feel like they lose, and then they're not going to want to deal with you again. I mean, this is about long-term success, is long-term relationships. People that want to continue to work with you because they're better off because they do it. I mean, the mercenary in you, there's a Goldman Sachs line from way back when. Greedy, yes, but long-term greedy. How do you be long-term greedy? You got to have great relationships. You got to help other people out in order to win long-term.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is for sure. And then empathy.
One of the most misunderstood words these days of all time, because it's become synonymous with compassion. And, I was just working on a blog post, the one I'm working on this morning. the fine line is empathy is not compassionate. Now, to be empathic is a very compassionate thing to do. But it was never the original definition of the word. It was a derivation of a German word in the 1800s. It was never meant to be compassion. It was meant to be sort of using all of your senses to feel what's going on with what you're interacting with. And it was originally designed in appreciation of art, which touches us, but, you know, we're not sympathetic towards the piece of art. We're, you know, but we feel with it. I mean, it's instinctive. It's tapping into all of our senses in order to understand the other side. So, you know, the empathy is a mercenary's tool. It's also a missionary's tool. It's about getting clarity of understanding with the other side, not disagreeing, not agreeing, but just getting great clarity with the other side, which it tends to be a very compassionate thing to do, but that's not its original goal. So it's, you know, understanding the distinction of empathy. If you can understand it that way, and we refer to it as tactical empathy, because we know so much more about how the brain works these days, but then it becomes a limitless skill. If I'm not required to agree with the other side, you know, I can be a far left on the political spectrum liberal and have empathy for a right-wing conservative. I can be an FBI hostage negotiator and have empathy for an ISIS killer, because it doesn't require agreement or disagreement, but it puts me in a position to have tremendous influence with the other side.
I love that. And you really do exemplify that in the book. Just many, many examples that you utilize on, that is the key to negotiation, is what you said there, is under the empathy of understanding, not agreeing, but seeing it from their point of view, essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then the influence that it leads to is just extremely, incredibly high and strong. And the other thing about that kind of influence is it's actually very durable, which means it's low maintenance. You don't have to talk to them every day. You don't have to constantly be convincing someone. If you've developed influence, you know, we refer to it as trust-based influence via tactical empathy. It's very strong stuff.
I love it. And research and experiential proven, too. Better
Exactly.
Yet. Okay.
That's right.
Yeah. And the fifth one there is social skills.
Yeah, well, this all begins to sort of interweave and interlock and then magnify itself. I mean, these lead to great social skills. These lead to you learning how to get better at social skills. I mean, it becomes a virtuous cycle to begin to drive this, because we have to have a collaborative world. You know, the human beings that survived, and there's so many things that we just inherit from our ancestors. The cavemen that survived collaborated with each other. You know, the cavemen that didn't collaborate died alone in the dark. So yeah. We're wired to be collaborative, hardwired for it. And consequently, you know, some of the things we know to be true in life and in business, you want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go as a team. You need social skills in order to go far as a team.
I love that. And I do think, you know, just with all these skills in here, I actually think this should be like a required reading starting at the high school level, because these are just such great skills for life, and all picked together, just the 5 things that we talked about that you wrote there: the self-awareness, self-regulation, internal motivation, empathy, and social skills. I mean, that will take you everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it exactly. It'll take you everywhere. And, you know, I love that you referred to it as it should be required reading.
Yeah.
The thing that always blew me away, because I taught in business schools across the country, across the world, not one business school or law school required negotiation. They were all electives.
It's crazy.
And how is that possible? But yeah, I don't know.
Everything is a negotiation in life, really. You know, you're negotiating every day on something. Yeah, I love that. So then, as I'm reading this, and then you know you were with the FBI for a long time, and just so I was really just pleased to know. Obviously, if you're dealing like high stakes, the hostage negotiation stuff you're doing, that you obviously have to be in control of your emotions. You cannot be just going off crazy, yelling, screaming, authoritarian style, because it doesn't work.
No.
Well, proven. But so what I'm wondering is, and I'm totally dead serious about the required reading, because you can't pick your parents, and a lot of people, because it just, generationally goes like this, there's a lot of high conflict people, or people that do that authoritarian bully style, which may work in the interim, but, not long term. But I wonder why all police forces, do not use this base level of what you just talked about, this assessment, this calm, where the tactical force is like the last resort. Yeah, how is that? How did you pick that up? Was that disseminated somewhere, or just from your own experiential, from being a police officer, noticing okay, this works?
Yeah, no law enforcement agency really seems to require it, and I can specifically remember when I went through the hostage negotiation training, looking back at my police officer days, thinking, wow, I wish they'd have made us learn this. Now, some of the cops that I worked with were actually really good at it, and I think that's where I generated a lot of my interest early on. I'd run across a detective, I'd run across a police officer that could work magic with their voice and was really blown away with their approach. But, the great cops learn it. In point of fact, the great police officers that you run into across on the street, whether they be uniformed or detectives, they come to learn it, but unfortunately the agencies really don't teach it.
Yeah, which is just, who can we get to throw this book everywhere at everybody for just these super amazing skills? I don't know. If you're listening, everybody pick it up.
Yeah. Give it to your favorite cop. Give it to him,
right?
as a gift, as a peace offering.
Just because it really it's helpful, and it just at least I found for myself personally, I was out of control with my emotions for a long time, because I grew up with somebody that was kind of like that and mimicked that, and just was very reactive as a person, and just and then I had found for myself, in my 20s, this is not working for me, because it's, I'm flustered, and then everybody else is flustered, and it's tensions, and it's fighting, and it's just not good. And, had learned to, okay, a different approach, kind of like this. And then when I read this book, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an instruction manual of greatness. But what also I liked about the book is you have these just super interesting stories. And I'm wondering if you could share maybe one of it doesn't have to be the hardest, or the most interesting negotiation that you've experienced.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, and I also want to make a side comment on the stories in the book.
Yeah.
Our co-author, and actually, the book was written with three people: myself, my son Brandon, and Tal Roz. Brandon's uncredited, but Tal is a genius writer. So, anybody out there, any book that you see that Tal Roz has got his name on as a co-writer, read that book, because he just had the knack for selecting the right stories for the book and dropping them in at just the right time. So the readability of the book is due to Tal Roz.
It was very well done.
Yeah, we were so lucky to have him working with us. But, one of my favorite stories, really the Chase Manhattan bank robbery from the book, which is relatively early in the book, when we got a bank robber on the other side that now in hindsight exhibited the characteristics of so many CEOs out there, so many really influential decision makers. And what do I mean by that? Our bank robber, who was the organizer and was the brains behind the event and controlled everything, well, he was on the phone with us. He just kept saying, these other guys, I'm scared of them. I don't know what they're going to do, and whatever I want to do, they're going to overrule me. So, I don't want to make these guys mad, because I don't know what they're going to do. And a great decision maker, if you can get him to the table, will continue to refer to the influence of the people that are not at the table. They'll say, I got a board of directors, and I don't know what this board of directors is going to do. And, I got my chief corporate counsel and all these other people I'm answerable to. I mean, if somebody that you're talking to is laying off authority that much to people that are not there, you are talking to the guy.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it at the Chase Bank. We got the guy out, and I got him to inadvertently blurt out some things when I used hostage negotiation skills that were very damaging to both him and his colleagues at trial. And, you know, if it works on somebody that's that tightly controlled and you can get them to say stuff that they don't even know that they've said, it'll work across the board.
I love that. Yeah, it was just so super interesting. And then I'm wondering, is there anything else that within all this that you think is important for people to know, or something that you'd like to share about yourself, what you do, and what people can learn?
Well, you know, I don't think of myself as a particularly smart guy, but I want to figure things out. And look, if being direct and blunt and stating your case, making your argument, if that was an effective way to communicate, I'd do it. I mean, in many ways, I'm a mercenary. I don't care what works. I just want to know what does work. And then I'm going to do it. And hearing people out is an incredibly effective way to make great deals. You know, let the other side talk themselves into your deal. Some people have said negotiation is the art of letting the other side have your way. You know, so the mercenary in you, if you want to get things done, hear people out. You know, use empathy, use tactical empathy. If you're a total mercenary and all you want to do is the most effective way to get your way, the most time effective way, use empathy. If you're a missionary and you want to do it because it helps people be better people, it helps you be a better person, use empathy. Hear people out. Let them feel heard. Let them feel good about their interaction with you. I mean, if the mercenaries and the missionaries like it, give it a whirl. It's for a good reason. You know, be Oprah, be Warren Buffett, be the people that we genuinely admire who are also ridiculously successful. And that's what the key to this stuff is. I mean, great relationships, great outcomes.
I love that. And I will disagree. You are very, very smart. And it is, you know, smart is a level of a lot of things. And it's also knowing, like you said, what works. You've had the experience, and then also just a lot of research behind it. You did with Daniel Kahneman and all this social psychological research on emotions. And when you know, it's utilizing, what I love is you utilize the information that you've learned into a practical skill set, which I think is more valuable than any book smarts, truly.
No, thank you. Yeah, I love to learn. I really love to learn.
I love that. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, and we're going to put all of the your website, your blog, links to the book in the website, but what are you doing next? What's new with you?
Well, you know, we got a lot of new stuff going on. We get open enrollment training sessions we're doing across the country. We're going to put out a lot of new material this year. We're working on certifications for negotiators. We got a video course coming out. We got a lot of stuff. The best way to keep up with everything we're doing is our newsletter, which is free. You know, it's a good price.
Yeah.
I had a colleague that used to say, if it's free, I'll take 3.
Yeah. I love it. Well, I so enjoyed this book and really have learned so much from it. It is, I think, like subtitles and Master of Your Emotions. That good and just so entertaining, well written, and you have such a wonderful skill set. Everybody, this will change your life. It will make you a better person. It will make it will make everything go better in your life, truly, if you utilize the skills in this book. I truly believe that. Yeah,
it really does. I'm very proud of the book and the impact it's having on people's lives.
Yes. Well, nice job. Well, Chris, I really enjoyed talking to you today. And I want to thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All righty. And I want everybody listening, you know where to get this book. I will put it all in the show notes, but Amazon.com has never split the difference. And for everyone listening, you know that there is always another way.